Um, there are a lot of deaths that don't even come under the medical examiner's jurisdiction. People that have been in the hospital for longer than 24 hours. If the circumstances of a death are deemed to be suspicious, ultimately the state forensic pathologist is the person who has the authority to determine whether or not an autopsy happens. A lot of times they will consider the family's feelings on the matter. For example, if the family really, really wants an autopsy and it's not super necessary because this person has a pretty significant medical history, there's nothing suspicious about the death, et cetera, family doesn't want an autopsy, we won't do one. If they do want an autopsy, I fucked that up. I'm going to start over. Okay. Ultimately, the state forensic pathologist is the person who has the authority to say there will or there won't be an autopsy. Depending on the circumstances, they might choose to take the family's preference into account. For example, sometimes the family really, really, really wants an autopsy, and it's not super necessary to determine what caused the death. If the family really wants it, the pathologist will do it. Conversely, if the family is adamantly against an autopsy, if it's not necessary, the pathologist will pass on doing an autopsy. But, if a death is suspicious, if there's any concern, or if the doctor looks at it and says, you know what, I have no idea what's going to go on this death certificate. We don't have any history. We've got these suspicious circumstances. They have jurisdiction over the body, and it's their decision to do an autopsy, whether the family likes it or not.
That makes a ton of sense. So I worked in the medical laboratory side of things and in ERs as an ER tech and on rigs and everything, as we've spoken about. But I would work in the medical lab side of things, and I did a lot of blood testing and things of the like. And it was always so frustrating when people would be like, why aren't the test results back yet? And it's just it doesn't work like it does on TV. I wish that
oh my gosh,
more people understood that it does not work like it does on TV.
Yeah.
I wish it did.
Yeah. And that's the thing is
better.
It's I know my hair would be great.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have so much makeup.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really frustrating is people tend to think that all deaths are suspicious. And the fact is very few deaths are suspicious. And, criminal minds would have you think that, the United States is just crawling with serial killers. And, the cases that they show in these TV shows, it's those are once in a lifetime. Those are once in a career cases. They don't happen every week.
So true. That's so true. I mean, I know we cover a lot of crime on this podcast. It's kind of in the name, kind of in the tagline too. Our tagline is two sisters, two coasts, a whole lot of crime in between. But part of it that everybody, that I hope the listeners are taking into account, is we are telling you these cases so you can be more aware, and because it's an interesting historical listen more so, and to bring attention to the victims and bring dignity back to the victims, not because we think you're going to fight off a serial killer, that you're not going to. I saw a weird statistic that was the average person encounters 6 serial killers in their lifetime, and I was like, who is this average person? And also, how do you know they're serial killers?
Right. Yeah. It's you brushed up against Ted Bundy at a bus stop, It's
who did that math
how
problem?
would you know?
Literally, who did that math problem? So I have another I have several more questions, but I've got one that might be a little stupid, but I have to ask it.
I love stupid questions. Let's hear it.
Okay, this is from my husband, but I promised him I would ask. Okay, so have you seen that show, iZombie?
I have, barely. I read the comic book more than I saw the show.
Okay, great comic, by the way, great show. Oh, A plus. Or like Gone in 60 Seconds, the examiner Spinks who does the autopsies. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Ryan wants to know, anyways, do you ever like eat with the bodies? That's like frowned upon, right? Like you don't like have lunch with the
Um,
bodies, right?
how to answer that? Have
You're not just like
I eaten around dead bodies? Absolutely. Is it frowned upon? Absolutely.
uh,
I mean, I've never
that's
like
a
left my
very
sandwich on a
political
dead
answer.
person's. Yeah. Have I ever left my sandwich on a dead person's chest? No.
He's gonna
But
love
there
that
are.
you immediately knew the scene and exactly what he was talking about because I have never seen Gone in 60 Seconds and he was very upset that I did not know the exact scene and he like pulled it up on YouTube and showed me. So
It's a good one. It's a good one.
he's gonna be
Um,
thrilled that you knew exactly what he was talking about.
yeah. So one of the things that we're talking about how TV doesn't get it right. Death scenes, if they're homicides, if there's some kind of extensive investigation going on, you end up there, you will sit on that scene for hours and hours and hours. And so, you need to eat. You have to eat. And in my jurisdiction, we have one medical legal death investigator on duty for 48 straight hours for the entire county, and they're the only person there. It's like I'm on my own for 48 hours at a time, and I'm on call. And so it's like I can sleep and I can eat and I can do all of these things if nothing's going on. But if the county is blowing up, then I eat when I can, I sleep when I can. And so I will absolutely like stuff a power bar in my mouth while I'm looking at a dead body.
That I never thought of it that way. I guess that's very true. I mean, I I have
Yeah, and I mean it's like you're on the go, and if the evening is mass carnage, if it's a shit show,
oh God,
you're not
yeah.
going to be able to go home and eat.
Okay. So also food related. Are there certain foods that you can like no longer eat based on, say, like a certain case that sticks in your mind, like be it I don't know, the stomach contents or like I don't know, someone murdered somebody in a KFC or are there things you can't
Um,
eat or like smells you can't be around because of work
yes,
anymore?
yes, absolutely. So rotisserie chickens, actually. Specifically, if you get a rotisserie chicken and you put it in your refrigerator for 24 hours and it's leftover rotisserie chicken, those things smell so close to dead bodies that I can't eat them. And so it's like a fresh rotisserie chicken, no problem. But a rotisserie chicken that's been in the refrigerator for like, overnight or 24 hours, it's like I will literally like visceral reaction the second the refrigerator door opens. I'm just like, oh no.
You have ruined a
Um,
new food for me. Thank you.
well, I mean, the thing is I'll eat the hell out of a rotisserie chicken like the day that I buy it, but
Oh,
after
same.
that, it's got to go. Yeah, it's there's
Yeah,
definitely an expiration date on that one.
you definitely
Um,
ruined
mm,
that for me. Wow.
my stepkids once gave me a candle for Christmas. And I was like, oh, yay, candle. And I lit it and it smelled just like embalming fluid at a funeral home.
Oh
And I
no.
had to, I had to throw it out.
Of course you did. That's terrible. I can smell it. Oh,
And
I feel that inside my nose. No. Ow.
and lastly, there was this one time I was dating this dude, and I don't know what he ate or drank or like what magical combination made this happen. But like it was pizza and beer and whatever. I don't even fucking know. But you think about it, it's like people's mouths have rotting food in them.
Ew. People's
You
mouths
know,
are
it's like,
disgusting. I literally say it on a regular
yeah,
basis. Being a
yeah. It's
dentist
like if
is,
you,
I have a reoccurring nightmare about my job being a dentist.
who does that? But yeah, it's like, you know, you think about it, it's like if you're not flossing your teeth or whatever, it's like
Oh,
if you don't have good hygiene. And so I like went on this date with this guy, and I don't know what it was, but it was like the combination of his oral hygiene and what he had been eating and drinking. But he like stepped forward to kiss me goodnight, and I shrank from him like he was a monster. I'm just like,
solid no.
I gotta go.
Very solid no way from me.
Yeah,
I'm good.
he smelled like decomp. Yeah, it's like, and it was just like that moment, just that like momentary whiff of decomp, and I was just like, oh god.
Oh,
And yeah,
yeah, that's fair. Oh
and
gosh, I'm like
shockingly, I was
cringing.
awkward enough. Yeah, shockingly, I was awkward enough to actually tell him that his breath smelled like decomp, and I'm not
Of
sure why I
course you
thought that
were.
would help the situation. Like, oddly, he didn't find that comforting. Like, it's not you; it's just your breath smells like decomp.
It's not you, your breath just. Oh, God.
It's not your fault.
I'm going to isolate that little sound bite and put that on our Instagram. That's beautiful. It's not you. You just smell like decomp. Oh,
Yeah, it's
reasons
very
to.
awkward.
Oh my gosh. So what is the procedure after you find a cause of death inconclusive? Is it like, do you at some point hand it over to the police? Like, do you keep investigating? Because you said you do a lot of investigating, but if you find the death inconclusive, do you continue to investigate up to a certain point, or do you just immediately hand it over to the police?
Well, so the police, they don't do cause and manner of death. Cause and manner of death is determined by the medical examiner's office. And so the police will, you know, it's like if there's a suspicious death, the police will come to the autopsy, and they will kind of partake in explaining to the forensic pathologist, you know, what their investigative process has yielded. But the police have absolutely no authority when it comes to cause and manner of death. They can convey to the pathologist, we think that this is suspicious because of this, or, you know, we think that this is a homicide because of this. But ultimately, and I mean, depending on the jurisdiction, you know, that has a varying degree of influence on the medical examiner's office. But like where we are, the police can talk all they want about what they think happened. If the pathologist doesn't find the physical evidence to back up their claims, the pathologist has absolutely no obligation to put that on the death certificate. You know, put the police department's opinion of what the death is on the death certificate. And a lot of times that can create fiction, because the police will be like, this is a homicide, this is a homicide, this is a homicide. And the pathologist will be like, look, I'm not seeing it, you know? And if the pathologist isn't convinced, it's not going on the death certificate. Now, when it comes to deaths that would be considered undetermined, what will happen, and a lot of times there are 5 manners of death. The manners of death are homicide, suicide, accident, natural, and undetermined. Cause of death is like the actual mechanism that caused the person's heart to stop. Like, for example, they bled out because of a gunshot wound, and so the cause of death would be exsanguination secondary to penetrating trauma.
That makes
or, you
so
know, they
much
have
sense.
Yeah, and so like a heart attack would be a natural cause of death. A gunshot wound to the head could be a homicide, a suicide, or an accident.